It's time for the classic. Y'all know what it is. Grambling, Southern, the Bayou Classic, in my opinion, the biggest HBCU game on a yearly basis in the regular season. Let's get it popping. Oh, yeah. It's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics. Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey's over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll wrap up today's episode with a look at the playoff showdowns. Virginia Union, Miles, Tennessee State. They all have playoff games this weekend, so we're going to dive into it. I told you, this is a tad bit different. For those who have not been here all day, or excuse me, all week rather, we do not have a Friday episode. So our game of the week is going to be on Thursday, which will typically host our extra games of the week. So instead, we got to compile it because there's no way that I would look at the Bayou Classic and ignore the playoff games with even bigger ramification and things at stake. So we put it all into today's episode. Hope that you guys are enjoying your Thanksgiving, about to enjoy your Thanksgiving, or maybe you said, I can't listen to you on Thursday, so I'm just going to listen to you on Friday. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving and about to enjoy a nice Black Friday. Whatever it is that you got going on, hope you having a good day. Let's get it on with our Bayou Classic matchups. It's Andrew Jones versus that Southern run game. Now, you had Coach Frederick, who was there for the SWAC media press conference because I think Coach Graves was probably doing something with the Bayou Classic, so he couldn't come on the weekly presser as he normally would. But you had, I believe it was Coach Frederick, who came on there and he was just speaking, and they asked him a little bit about the game plan. They asked him some things here and there. And one guy that he mentioned twice in his first answer, I don't think that he needed to mention Andrew Jones, but he did, right? I think he just said, I think the question was, how do you prepare for this team? And he said, they got a guy, 6. He's a handful or something of that nature, right? And he was identified twice, and then he came back again. They asked about running the football and how you're going to want to go about that. And clearly they're going to want to run the football. That's what he said. He didn't want to give any specifics, but he said they have really good defensive linemen and da-da-da. But then he named one guy, and that's Andrew Jones. He named one guy. He said you have to account for Andrew Jones every play. I don't remember him naming anybody else. This is the impact player on that Grambling defense. I remember the first time that he just jumped off the screen to me. The first time he jumped off the screen, I believe, was that Jackson State game. I'm talking about, I remember it now. I'm talking about I believe. But no, seriously. But the first time he jumped out to me, it wasn't about who he was facing. It was about how he performed. And it was the athleticism that he showed on a sideline to sideline front. It was the athleticism that he showed penetrating the offensive line to get into the backfield. It was those things. And ever since then, I've been an Andrew Jones fan, I would say. I've been a proponent of his game. I think that he is the favorite to be the defensive player of the year. When you look at the amount of tackles that he has, it's just about what do you favor. What stat do you favor? If you favor sacks, well, you might go with somebody like Traquan Thomas, who I think is not getting the credit that he deserves. But that's neither here nor there because we're talking Grambling versus Southern. You might go with somebody like Ckelby Givens, who we will discuss because this is Grambling versus Southern, and Givens is on the Southern side. But impact player that Andrew Jones is, and when you talk about having to account for somebody, this is a menace, guys. Over 110 tackles on a year, over 15 tackles for a loss, things at 17. This is somebody who knows how to impact the game on multiple fronts. We're identifying the run game, but if you're talking short passes, I think he has the ability to attack you there as well, especially if you have a corner who's able to hold that edge strong. You have to hold that. If you let the little bubble pass get around the cornerback into the sideline, well, that neutralizes your linebackers. But if your cornerback can come up, attack the wide receiver, keep the catching wide receiver, right? Attack the blocking wide receiver, keep the catching wide receiver from the receiver who caught the ball, I should say. That sounds better. Keep him from getting around the edge. Andrew Jones, he'll be able to come through and he'll be able to really lessen the impact of some of those short plays, because some of those screens can be 3 yards or they can be 30. Andrew Jones, with the right help from the corner, can make those be 3-yard gains. Southern's going to want to run the football. They've done it most of the year. They ran over 40 yards, 40 attempts, in SWAC play. So 4 out of 7 games in SWAC play, they've ran 40 or more times. It's even. If you include that Jackson State game, it'll then go to 4-4. So it'd be 8 matchups then and be an even split. But they like to run the football. They're going to try to run the football. Andrew Jones is going to be a big part of trying to stop it. Then you have Ckelby Givens. And Ckelby Givens has been the most disruptive player by pure stats this year. If you're looking at tackles for a loss, and you know what? I think that the SWAC has been combining tackles for a loss and sacks. Only on the TFL side, though. On sacks, you isolated, you know exactly how many sacks they've had. But I've done gone through some people's stats before on a game-by-game basis. And they got 5, 4, like 3 or so, like anywhere between 3 to 5 games where they have the same amount of sacks and tackles for a loss. And I'm like, what's the chances that they got behind the backfield and got a sack and a half, and then on a run play got a tackle and a half for loss? I don't know. So even if you go by that, everybody goes by the same metric. So his 24.5, his 24 and a half is still higher than everybody else when you combine their sacks and run stops. I wish that they stopped doing that, though, because a sack should not count as a TFL. But they also start counting sack yardage as negative rushing yardage, and I don't like that either. Those are 2 little gripes I have. Maybe I'm being pessimistic. Who knows? Maybe I need to go ahead and get ready for Thanksgiving and go eat myself. But I don't love that. But anyway, he's extremely disruptive, no matter how you mark it. And he has 9 sacks. That's 3rd in the conference. So that's his 9 sacks are 3rd in the conference. And even if you take out those 9 sacks from the 25 and a half, that's still 15 and a half tackles for a loss. Even if those sacks are included in there, that's still 15 and a half TFL. So this is an extremely disruptive player in Ckelby Givens. He was the preseason defensive player of the year. I think that he's gone a little bit under the radar, but when you look at his numbers, he's another person who does have an argument for this, only because I know the Alabama State contingent is probably thinking, well, he doesn't have as many sacks as Traquan Thomas. We'll see what happens after this game, number one. But then also the TFLs. That may impact some things. I think the combination of the two. But we'll see. There's an argument, guys. There's an argument for Givens, Thomas, and Jones. I'm a linebacker. I'm a little bit partial. I think that may have something to do with it. But I'm going to go with the guy with 100-something tackles. That's me, though. That's me. I'm a big Andrew Jones fan. Now for the last matchup that we're looking at is Javon Robinson versus that Southern defensive backfield. And here's the thing about it, is that Robinson is the only real reliable threat that Grambling has through the air. If you're looking at everybody on the team, he's the only guy who has more than 200 yards this season. He's the only guy who averages 20 or more yards per game. Y'all hear me? There's only one player on Grambling that averages 20 receiving yards a game. So, yes, if you're Southern's defense, who is the best pass defense in the conference by numbers, I think they're number one. Let me make sure. I don't feel like looking right now. But they're top 2, top 3. I'm pretty sure they're 1, though. If I know I got some of the best defensive backs and you got one wide receiver I need to worry about, I'm feeling like this is free lunch. Like, I'm feeling like, oh, I might even double that guy. I may not feel like I need to, but I may still just double that guy. Probably be a lot of man-to-man coverage. I expect to see a lot of man coverage from Southern. There's not much you have to worry about on that offensive front. So, but let's push forward. Let's push forward to our keys to victory. I'm gonna keep it real simple. I don't think that this is overly complicated, but I'm really enjoying the one that I've created for Southern because it's kind of a double entendre of sorts. So let's see if I can pull this off the right way as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time, and Game Time is the only place that I go get my tickets. I don't know about you, but there ain't nowhere else I've been. And if you ain't going there, that means you've never gone there. Because once you go, you're going to get the all-in prices, so no more being duped. You know what it is from the very beginning. Hey, these tickets are $80. Not $80 with an additional little 15 that we're going to have. No, this is an $80 ticket, point blank, period, right? The other side of that is that you also get to see where you're sitting. You get to see the view from where you're sitting, not just, oh, there goes that red dot. You ever just click, oh, there goes that red seat. That's me. No, how about I get to see exactly where I'm looking at? I wish I had that sometimes. There's been times when I wish I would have used that. And it's moments like this where I look back and I regret using other services that I know I will never go back. I will never leave Game Time because they give me everything I want. All in prices, the best prices. They give me the ability to see where I'm sitting and everything in between. Go to download the Game Time app today. Use the promo code Locked On College, and you get $20 off your first purchase. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On College Football. It's getting hectic, it's getting heavy, and there's no other show that you need to watch. This is the one with the biggest stakes at hand right now. Me, Celebration Bowl, SWAC Championship, Bayou Classic, Locked On College Football, the College Football Playoffs. There's nothing else that has higher stakes league-wide, right? So that these are the two shows that you really need to check out, and you already checked one of those boxes. So love y'all. Thank you. Keys to victory. Mind you, we're only doing the matchups and the key to victory because we did the storylines yesterday to compensate for the fact that we were going to have to condense our game preview. So if you did not catch the Grambling and Southern storylines, that's segment one. That's actually segment one of yesterday's HBCU circuit. It was a part of that. We started off with the SWAC West. So go back to yesterday if you didn't catch it, and then come back and holler at me. So see what you guys think, or just comment there. You don't have to come back here and tell me. Just comment there. As for Grambling, I think it's make Jalen Woods beat you, right? Like Southern plays hot potato with their quarterback situation. I actually really don't like the way that they handle their quarterback situation. I think that it's in poor taste, but they're going to the SWAC championship, so how much can I really complain? I just don't think they give enough time for you to really grow. And I believe in Tease It. I just wish that Tease It had more time to grow. I'm assuming that Jalen Woods is going to play this game. He replaced Tease It 2 weeks ago, and then he played this last game against UAPB. So I would assume he's going to play right now. And Coach Frederick was talking about how he likes Woods, and he was asked about him. He didn't give too much information, but he just said, "Yeah, I like Woods. I think all of our quarterbacks are providing something different and coach stuff, man. But Jalen Woods is probably going to be the starter. That's my expectation. Make Jalen Woods go beat you. He doesn't have that much experience. He's stepping into this game, and he's a relatively inexperienced quarterback. I'm a defense that is known for taking the ball away. At the end of the day, Jalen Woods is relatively inexperienced, and I'm a turnover factory. We have to force him to beat us. Southern is going to come in and want to run the football. If you stop them from running the football on a consistent basis, and that means first down, second down, get them into some 3rd and 7s. Don't let them get into 3rd and 2s and 3s where they can still run the football. And even that, the thing about 3rd and 3s, sometimes even 3rd and 4, is depending on where you are on the field, you'll run the football just to make it a manageable 4th down. We don't want that. We don't want that. If you're Grambling, you want to make sure that this game is put on Jalen Woods' shoulders because he needs to prove that he can do it, and he hasn't yet. So from a defensive standpoint, I know they give up a lot of yards. Grambling gives up a freaking ton of yards, but they get turnovers. They have the second most interceptions in the conference. You got to be able to get these interceptions. You got to be able to turn over the football. Look, if we weak at it and he inexperienced, somebody got to win. Somebody got to win, and you got to take that chance. Stop the run game, which is what you're better at. Stop the run. Play better coverage. I know that Mickey Joseph isn't happy with the coverage that you've been playing. I don't know if they're going to play zone this game, maybe man to man. We'll see. I know he wants to play more man, but that seems to be something that they're going to try to implement in the offseason as opposed to the last game of the season. But you may see a little bit more man. You got to plaster. You got to plaster. And you got to say, Jalen Woods, we're playing tight coverage. Or Jalen Woods, we're going to make them think they're open. Bait them, right? I don't know how to explain that in a different way. But like bait them. Bait them. That's the way that I view it personally. Then as for Southern, it's kind of similar to make Jalen Woods beat you. But this is the double entendre I was referencing. Put the pressure on Myles Crawley. And I mean that in two ways, literally and figuratively. Literally, heat him up. Like, get pressure, get beyond the line of scrimmage, make his life terrible. The thing you have to understand is this year, Mickey Joseph went on record. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mickey Joseph went on record and said, hey, we don't really love when Myles Crawley gets pressure. That's when he starts making mistakes, messing up. Well, if you're going to say that, what am I going to do every single game? Get pressure on Crawley, because I understand no quarterback likes pressure, right? I know that sounds like, well, I want to get pressure every game. Yes. But the more you play, the more you realize pressure on different quarterbacks means different things. Pressure on Daniel Richardson, right? I felt like he was able to navigate pressure very well. I think back to that Norfolk State game. I think back to that South Carolina State game. I think about those matchups. When he got pressure on him, he was able to elude. He was able to slip. He was able to he had a pretty strong base, right? So he was able to still stand firm in the pocket at times. He was able to just kind of shrug players off. Some guys can handle pressure better. Myles Crawley, on the other hand, has Mickey Joseph talking about, yeah, we don't like when he starts taking hits. He doesn't. That's part of the reason he lost his job for a second, right? Like, yeah. So I'm not a fan of that, but heat him up. And then on the other side, the figurative side, is get a lead. Get a lead and put the pressure on Crawley that way, because I haven't seen the quarterback who can come walk you down. The quarterback who's going to walk you down, I have not frequently saw. So with that being the case, I'm gonna spend most of my time trying to get pressure on him, lead him to some mistakes. I'm gonna spend my offensive time trying to get a quick lead, because I know that when the pressure gets on him, he's gonna be do or die time. It's gonna be do or die time, and he has to show me. I don't think he's a choker. I don't think he's impossible getting there. I just don't think he's been playing consistently enough to really walk you down. That's the way that I view it. All right. Now let's move away from this. By the way, the reason I always say that the Bayou Classic is the biggest game is because I grew up that way. I know I went to TSU and everything. My family has roots in Louisiana. The Bayou Classic is special to me. It's always going to be special to me. And there will never be anything you can tell me to tell me there's a bigger game on an annual basis between the same teams. The Celebration Bowl is the biggest HBCU football game of the year because it's the HBCU Super Bowl. But to me, from how I was raised and all of that, the Bayou Classic is the game that you sat down on your couch in the living room and we sat down and watched. It's the classic. As you push forward, these aren't classic, but these are playoff games. So let's take a look at Tennessee State, Virginia Union, and Miles College and what they have to look forward to as we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Man, this is a huge challenge for Miles. I know we typically would start with Tennessee State, but I want to wrap with Tennessee State. This is a huge challenge for Miles College. When you're looking at exactly what it is that Miles is taking on. They went from being the favorites last week to facing the best team in their region. Let's scratch that. Miles went from being the favorites last week to facing one of 3 undefeated teams in Division II football. Miles went from being the favorites last week to hosting the top team in the country. The AFCA polls has Valdosta State at numero uno. That's number 1 in Spanish. This is a matchup against a dominant force And I need Myles' defense to step up again. Last week, we saw that. It was a really good performance by the defense, and that's the reason they were able to win. Valdosta does it all, man. But most importantly, they put up points. And points are the thing between scoring offense and scoring defense is that scoring defense, you could hold tight forever. Sometimes you have to. But no matter how great your defense is, you can never take points off the board. That's the thing about facing a squad with a really good scoring defense. If you get them to break once, if you break that scoring defense once, maybe twice, those points are on the board forever. So when you're looking at scoring offense, it don't matter if your defense is great or, excuse me, if your offense is stagnant, if your defense is still locking down, you're still in it. But let Valdosta State a top 10, 11th overall total offense in yardage, 10th in scoring defense, averaged, I think, like 43 points per game offensively. Let them get some drives. Let them get some points. Now the pressure's on you. Because I've seen this with Tennessee State. It's funny enough. I think it was the UT Martin game. Tennessee State clamped UT Martin for the better half of 3 quarters, right? Like, absolutely shut down UT Martin. But they allowed 21 in the beginning of the game, and no matter how great they played, it wasn't like, you know what, you done forced 4 straight 3-and-outs. Y'all take a touchdown off the board. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. So because it doesn't work that way, points are final. You got to really show up as Myles' defense, and that's going to be the true challenge, in my opinion. They have Sammy Edwards, someone who's up for the Harlan Hill, essentially the D2 HBC, or excuse me, the D2 Heisman. That tells you what kind of caliber of player that he is. He's not overly prolific, but you see what kind of player he is if he's going to be up there for the Harlan Hill. He's a top flight quarterback. He's a really talented guy. Yeah, so you up the difficulty if you're Myles. Now you go into Virginia Union and you're facing Lenoir-Rhyne. Both of you pulled off the upset in the first week of the Division II playoffs, and now you got to go visit them. Last week you took down Wingate, ended their 20 straight HBCU victory streak. But you're looking at Myles, man. Or excuse me, you're looking at Virginia Union. Virginia Union has to deal with a prolific quarterback too. Lenoir-Rhyne has the 7th leading passer in the country. They play 12 games. So even if you want to be like, oh, well, they play more games. If you take a game away from him, he'd probably be top 15-ish. Probably around that top 15 area. So this is just, it's going to be a challenge. I'm looking at Jada Byers, as I always am when Virginia Union is playing. But the thing about Byers is that I thought he had an okay game. But this is the playoffs. And I don't know if your starting quarterback's going to be back or if RJ Rosales is going to be there. Regardless of who it is, playing well at the running back position is going to up your chances of winning incredibly, right? Like, Jada Byers is the engine of this team. I don't care if the starting quarterback is here or not. That's the guy who makes this offense go. It's Jada Byers. Talk about Harlan Hill Award finalist. Byers is up for that as well. The thing is, if you are they keyed in on Byers, and it worked. It worked. But if it happens again, I don't know if they're able to get away with it. Just because if Rosales has to play the whole game, we talk about these critical moments, but it's not about moments then. It's not about 1 or 2 or 3. It's about the entirety of the game. So it's more so about stacking moments and who you are in totality as opposed to a fourth quarter and overtime. The shoes would be so much, not even the shoes, the responsibility would be greater. And with great responsibility, no, I'm joking. But the one thing I will say about Lenoir-Rhyne's quarterback is as prolific as he is on a yardage standpoint, he only has 17 touchdowns in 12 games. So he's not big on scoring. So that's one thing that's a little bit lesser, but you have to watch out for that. Now let's switch it up, guys. I'm talking about all these quarterbacks and this, that, and the third. Tennessee State's going to have to use their run defense. Let's close it out. They go against Montana Saturday night. Get your nap in, right? I don't know if you may still be on a 2-day itis. We'll see. You may still be on a little 2-day itis afterwards, but Montana runs the football. They're one of the better running teams in the FCS. So with them being such a good running squad, your run defense has to show up. It's kind of the opposite of last week. Last week, it was, oh, well, we stopped the pass, and we're going against a team that passes the ball really well. Now you're going against a running team, and your run defense is not your passing defense. So I'm going to need the Bookers. I'm going to need the Ellises. I'm going to need the Georges. Like, I'm going to need these guys to step up. I'm going to need these guys who have been penetrators to continue to do what it is that they do. I'm going to need these guys along the defensive line to kind of just stall out that offensive line. I like Sanders Ellis at linebacker. I need you to stall out that line so that he has the ability to flow. It's great when your defensive line is able to get into the backfield, but I just need you to, not get pushed back, and I also need you to give my linebackers room to move. That's what I'm looking for. Excuse me. God, I was trying to hold that in too. But it's an interesting dynamic. Draylon Ellis, I like the approach they took with Jalen Ellis last week. So they did a lot of short passes that ended up going into big gains, but it won't always happen that way. But it could be a easy 7 to 8 yard play. I really like that because it allows you to stay ahead of the chains. And knowing that running the rock ain't really your forte, it's not your strongest suit. That's like an extension of the run game. So that allows you to get easy yardage. Yes, it goes in the passing bucket, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's about getting a W. And how you get those yards, it's irrelevant. What does it lead to? Does it lead to touchdowns? Does it lead to field goals? Does it lead to punts? Does it lead to turnovers? That's what you're looking for. You want the first two and not the last two. Tennessee State, run defense better be prepared because Montana is coming to run it. That's what they're coming for. So, we got game. We got action, y'all. I'll be back Monday. I'm taking Friday off. I'm going to enjoy my Thanksgiving / Black Friday. But we got action. And I can't wait to be back with you on Monday. I really can't. I would fast forward to Monday, but then I'd miss all the games. So I don't want that. But in the meantime, between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.